course, you have to prep for any livestock and things like that as well too. First off, you have to have the livestock, or at least the breeding part of the livestock. Second off, you have to have cages and infrastructure already set up for them, feeders, waterers, the whole 9 yards, some feed stored. Contrary to popular belief, rabbits are not going to thrive on just, handfuls of grass every so often and things like that. You can feed them a bit of that, but they're going to need protein just like any other animal does. One of the other things, getting back to our main points here, is the lack of fertilizers and pesticides is also going to hamper greatly the would-be Farmer Jones in the apocalypse. A lot of people poo-poo pesticides and such nowadays, and the idea is, well, I'll just grow organically, and that's going to solve that problem. I won't need any fertilizers, I won't need any pesticides. Well, let me tell you what, when it comes down to the possibility of you losing your one and only harvest, because guess what, if you lose it, if you've gambled and you've put most of your seed out that first season, you're going to do whatever you need to do to keep the bugs off of it, okay? And, it's not going to be a fun hobby then. It's not going to be a bragging point to your friends that, oh, I organic garden, and oh, la-ti-da. It's going to be straight up, pure and simple survival. So use what you can. There is some things that you cannot take care of organically. In the fruit tree videos, I described a pest that we had that just knocked us dead last year on the apples and the plums and things like that. And the only way, there was no organic controls for it, and the only way we got rid of it was by spraying, and spraying regularly. We're looking under the rabbit cages right here. Not exactly a sight most suburbaners are used to seeing, but of course this is the benefits. This is also the benefits of keeping animals. This is your post-apocalyptic fertilizer stock here. All right. Contrary to popular belief, it's tough to grow things when your only fertilizer source is, say, rabbit manure, chicken manure, and things like that. It's just, well, I can compost. Well, that's great and all that for, again, 2 or 3 small raised beds. But when you're doing a substantial amount of gardening, which you'll have to do to survive, you need, you're not going to have, from even, say, a couple dozen rabbits here, you're not going to have enough fertilizer to really make it happen. There's only so much compost a small garden is going to make between plant residues and things like that. You really need to have animals if you're going to try to go it completely organically, because what's going to happen, and I mean a substantial amount of animals, because what's going to happen is, like I said, a dozen or 2 dozen rabbits, or even that and a couple dozen chickens are not going to provide the amount of fertilizer you really need to grow a substantial garden area. One thing I wanted to cover here too quick while we're here, got some squash or some zucchini here growing, is the other thing is to think about plants that are going to produce a fair amount for their time in, or the amount of fertilizer and such they're using up, like that corn we showed earlier. That corn's going to take up the ground for, several months. It's going to take a heck of a lot of water, a heck of a lot of fertilizer and space and such like that, and it's going to produce an ear, perhaps 2 on some stalks of corn, and that's it. Now the silage will be useful, the plant stalk and such. We can feed that back to some of the animals, but in general, it's a lot of fertilizer. It's a lot of effort involved for just basically a small amount of food. I mean, contrast that with something like the squash or zucchini here, and these are really young, but as time goes on, they'll produce each one perhaps upwards of a dozen zucchinis, or squash. So you're getting more out of each plant. Same with tomatoes. Same with beans. Peas is what we're just done with in this garden area right here. That's why it looks like such a mess. These broccoli plants, there's approximately 4 in this barrel, and this is something that somebody that doesn't have any land, maybe in the suburbs or something, can do just by filling up a barrel. But these have all had their main broccoli heads off already. All right, several months ago actually. But what they do is they end up side shooting, and they'll actually end up putting out other smaller heads there on the side you can see one. Let's see. Hard to tell where exactly this camera is. You can see one down there. You can see another little side shoot here. So, you know, again, we cut the leaves off, these parts off. We use them for little bunny treats and such, and we'll get more and more broccoli off these. And if you actually leave these for a year or so, they'll actually start putting out new main heads in that as well too. So again, it's important to look at plants that you can get multiple amounts of food off of instead of just growing all season for that one ear of corn. Lastly, in our list here of things that are going to be a detriment to trying to grow food in the if something happens is the labor and or the fuel issues. A lot of modern farms are run on diesel and things like that to do some of the tilling and such. We use a diesel tractor here a couple times a year to basically disc up some of the larger growing areas. From there, we plant them immediately, or we stretch tarps over the areas that we're not ready to plant yet to keep the weeds down, and then we pull the tarps back and plant. And when we plant, we try to plant a big section all at once to try to, and it helps us to get ahead of the weeds typically early on. And then past that, we don't worry much about the weeds because the plants are ahead of them. And when the plants are done, like I said, we cover up the area. We till the stuff back into the soil, and we go from there. And last but certainly not least, in factors to consider that might cause a problem for somebody just to grow a garden right after something happens, is the NBC factors. And NBC means nuclear, biological, and chemical. If the event that has put you in the survival situation is say a nuclear attack on a large scale, well, that's going to cause problems to your growing cycle. That's going to cause all kinds of decontamination issues and things like that as well too. Or even the same with a chemical attack in your area or biological. So to recap, basically what we wanted to discuss with this blog was, or vlog, whatever you call it, was the fact that the idea that you're just going to start being able to grow a garden right after something happens is kind of flawed unless you've taken care of some of these problems. And again, some of the things that are going to be going up against the average survivor that's trying to do that are the lack of running water, the lack of experience and growing food, most of your food on a day-to-day basis now, your soil not being in proper shape, lack of seed stock or the correct amount of seed stock, the development time needed, as in putting in ponds and getting your trees ready and such, getting your trees in, and also developing your soil, the lack of fertilizer and pesticides, and of course the lack of fuel and or labor. So again, very important, if you are not to that point now where you can say, yes, I grow 50% or more of what I eat or what my family eats, instead of conning yourself and thinking, well, I'll just start growing everything I need right after the apocalypse, I'll be a overnight Farmer Jones, put some more food storage back. Look at the other videos we have on YouTube, the Paw Production videos where we show you how to pack food, some of the stuff we have upcoming that's going to show you what to store, and put more food back. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't get some experience growing your own food, and like we just showed with the little container, you can do that stuff in your backyard in suburbia. But by all means, just don't fall for the myth that you're going to be able to grow stuff with, 3 or 4 pitcher packets of seeds are going to save you after the apocalypse. It ain't going to be that case, ladies and gentlemen. Anywho, that was about